Alright, what is up everybody? We are back with another edition of Everyday Hoops. Hope you guys are having a good one. Today, I'm going to be giving my 2025 Role Player All-Star Team. This is something I did last year, and something I really enjoy, giving the role players and guys that, maybe not get so much attention, some love. So we have the Role Player All-Star Team here in today's video. Thank you guys for the views on the videos and the shorts recently. I really appreciate it. If you do like the content around here, consider subscribing, liking, turn notifications to all stuff like that. I'd really appreciate it. Really helps out a lot. Link to my Twitter and all that stuff down in the description below. And yeah, don't want to say any more of your time. Let's get right into it. All right, so we're explaining it before we really get into the video. So this is going to work similar to the NBA All-Star team. We have the starters, you have 2 guards, 3 forwards, Eastern Conference and Western Conference. And my cutoff was no more than 16 to 17 points per game. So if they average 17 points or less per game, I'm going to say I'm a role player, because there's some guys that, maybe average 18, 19 points that might be role players, but I didn't want guys that are like second, third options. I want guys that are like not really going to be super involved offensively, or at least as like starters, as like the second, third option on a team. I wanted more of the role player guys, and a lot of these guys are more, eye test. They might have crazy numbers, but eye test, you watch them in the corner, you're like, oh, this guy is so impactful to this team, and that's how we're going to do it in today's role player video, the All-Star role player. So now let's get right into it. So we'll start with the Eastern Conference starter, starting at the guard position. Your first guard in the Eastern Conference of the role player All-Star team is Derek White of the Boston Celtics. He actually made the team last year as the captain, and he still is one of the top role players in the league so far this season. Actually career high in points per game with 16. Give you 16, 4, and 4 with a block per game while shooting 44% from the field, 37% from 3, 83% from the free throw line. We all know what Derek White does to this team, the Boston Celtics, the reigning champs. They're one of the top teams in the league, and Derek White is a big, intricate part of that. He's a starting guy that is just going to do whatever he has. I'm literally the perfect example of what a role player is. He's still arguing like the best role player in the game. He does so much on the court. You're so comfortable with him playing as much as possible and doing anything. You need to be the lead guard, you can. You need to be the off guard, you can. You need to guard your best player, you can. You need to knock some threes, you can. You need to facilitate, you can. You can just ask him to do anything on the court, and you'll feel comfortable with him doing that. And he's going to always, on the court, provide some winning aspects and not be a negative on the court. He's never going to be a negative on the court. He's always going to be positive and doing something right. Even if it doesn't show up in the stat sheet or anything like that, you just feel so comfortable with him on the court, just doing whatever you feel like he needs to do, and he's going to do it. So that's why Derek White obviously is going to start for the East in the All-Star role player All-Star game. Our next guard in the Eastern Conference starting for the role player All-Star game is going to be Malik Beasley of the Detroit Pistons. Beasley's been having a phenomenal season in Detroit. Give you 16 points per game, almost 3 rebounds, while shooting 43% from the field, 41% from 3. He's played in every game for Detroit this year as well, and he's just been amazing. I mean, getting a guy, he signed a 1-year, $6 million contract in the offseason for Detroit, and for someone of that value, be able to give you 16 points per game off the bench while shooting 41% from 3 on 9 attempts per game. Literally the exact thing the Detroit Pistons needed was some spacing, some shooting, and Malik Beasley is doing that. He is spacing the floor, playing very well as a 6-man, kind of a little bit underrated in the 6-man of the year conversations. He's been doing that, but also not even just on the court, but off the court as well. He's been a big part of building culture in Detroit. I feel like every time I see him, he's always, talking to the young guys, smiling with the fans. Looks like he's kind of being big in the locker room as well. So Malik Beasley's just been all around perfect for what Detroit has really needed this year, and I put him as a starter because I feel like he deserves. Every time I watch the Pistons play, every time I feel like Malik Beasley's always making something happen and always producing, playing at a very high level right now. So Malik gets a starting nod for the role player All-Star team. Next to the front court, my first starting forward in the Eastern Conference, the role player All-Star game, is going to be OG Anunoby of the New York Knicks. Now, OG, kind of a controversial one for me personally, because he is, he meets the criteria in points per game, but he also isn't getting paid like a role player. He's getting paid a lot of money, and he also does have some big load a little bit offensively for the Knicks, but I ultimately decided to put him in because he meets the point requirement, and also Mikal Bridges sometimes is that third guy, and I put OG on here, so OG makes the list for me personally. Currently averaging 16, 4, and 2 with almost 1.5 steals and almost a block per game, shooting 48% from the field, 36% from three, 79% from the free throw line. He's also played in every game this year for New York as well, while being one of the top in minutes, averaging over 36 minutes per game. He did suffer the injury against the Lakers the other day, which hopefully, thankfully wasn't a huge injury, you know. But OG just does his thing, what OG does out there, perfect with the Knicks. It's someone that's gonna guard up one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA, one of the best defenders, period, in the NBA. And then offensively, he's had some big moments this year. He's taken some big jumps at some points throughout the season. Give you being a solid 3-point shooter, being a guy that can attack the rim. And OG Anunoby just one of the kind of like when you think of 3 and D and think of like two-way wings, OG is one of the first players that come to mind. And that's perfect for role players. That's what winning teams really need. And OG is literally the definition of that. So that's why OG makes it for me as a starter in the East for the role players. My next starting forward in the Eastern Conference for the role players is going to be Josh Hart of the New York Knicks. The Knicks get 2 starters. Hart having a fantastic year, give you 14 points, almost 10 rebounds per game, and almost 6 assists with over 1.5 steals, shooting 56% from the field, 34% from 3, 81% from the free throw line. He's having a career high in rebounds, assists, steals, field goal percentage, free throw percentage. He's been having a phenomenal year. He is playing 37.5 minutes per game as well, which is one of the tops in the league because he plays for the Knicks. But Josh Hart, another guy that just is like the embodiment of when you think of role player in the NBA, it's Josh Hart. The hustle, the things he does for this team. Like Josh Hart is just the embodiment of what you want in a role player, and he's been doing that. He just has been so good this year. I mean, doing other stuff, not even just scoring, but doing other things, rebounding the ball. I mean, averaging almost 10 rebounds per game for someone that's 6'4" is just nuts, and especially averaging over 2 offensive rebounds per game. And then the passing ability, he really has been a playmaker and passer as well, very very nicely for that. I mean, he's had some triple double games. He's been shooting the ball super efficiently as well, 56% from the field. He knows when to take his shots. We know what he does defensively. He wins so many games just because he gets an extra offensive rebound or two, that really just, hurts other teams. And Josh Hart just the embodiment of what you want in a role player. So he absolutely deserves to be starting in the East. And my last starter in the Eastern Conference in the front court is going to be Jarrett Allen of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Allen this year averaging 13 points, 10 rebounds, and almost 2 assists while shooting 70% from the field. He's appeared in every game as well for the Cavaliers. And the Cavaliers, obviously the best record in the league, best team in the league. So obviously, just like the real All-Star game, they're going to get some more love for the role player All-Star game. Jarrett Allen has been very, very good, even though he doesn't have crazy numbers like he has. He's actually having his worst season since being in Cleveland statistically. But in terms of impact, still doing the same things. Him and Evan Mobley have been very good. You know what he does defensively. Offensively, brings so much, especially the 2-man game that he has with Darius Garland and Jarrett Allen. And Donovan Mitchell as well. He can work with both of them, shooting the ball the most efficiently of his career as well at 70%. Appearing in every game, being healthy, durable. He just does so much for this Cavalier team, and he definitely deserves to be a starter for the role players. Now we're going to the bench, the reserves for the role players, staying in the East. The first guard coming off the bench for the Eastern Conference role players is going to be Peyton Pritchard of the Boston Celtics. Pritchard this year give you almost 14 points per game with 3 rebounds and 3 assists, shooting 46% from the field, 41% from 3, 84% from the line. He's also appeared in every game this year for the Celtics, and he was early in the year running away with 6-man. Now he's kind of been a 2-man race with DeAndre Hunter, but Peyton Pritchard has been so good. Working his way up from being kind of just like a rotational big point guard to sometimes not even playing to now he's like, a staple as their 6-man. He comes off the bench and brings so much, average career highs, points, rebounds, 3-point percentage, shots per game. He's average career highs and just doing all that stuff. And he's really sometimes does feel like a 6 starter. Like sometimes he does come off the bench and you're just like, damn, we got to deal with this dude now. Peyton Pritchard that can come in and give you 4, 5, 6 3-pointers, hit a half-court shot. And then all of a sudden, it's like, dang, he's got 22 points. And he's just changed the entire game. And he's one of the best 6 men in the league and just really working hard to find a role for this elite Boston Celtics team. So shout out to Peyton Pritchard for doing that. And he is, definitely deserves to make this team. And maybe win 6-man of the year this year. My next guard coming off the bench in the Eastern Conference is going to be Jalen Suggs of the Orlando Magic. Suggs this year career year, averaging 16, 4, and 3 with 1.5 steals and almost a block, shooting 41% from the field, 31% from 3, 88% from the free throw line. He just made the cutoff because I had a game cutoff for, games played, and Jalen Suggs just barely made it because he has missed some time recently. But Suggs really good. He also, you can argue, he does meet the criteria for he's a kind of the third guy in Orlando, which is what I kind of said earlier in the video I kind of wanted to avoid. But I feel like it's similar to OG Anunoby, where it's like he might be the third option. He might be his numbers. He's not getting paid like a role player. He's getting paid a lot of money, but I don't know. It just felt wrong to not have him on the list because that's what Jalen Suggs does. You already know what he's gonna do defensively. He's really found his mark as a defender and gritty and the heart and soul of the team, which is one of the top things that role players really do. And role players, you love what role players do. But his offensive game is also taking a jump this year. Like, there's a lot of times where he's had to kind of be the number one because Paolo and Franz has been injured, and he did a great job of that. Even though the shooting numbers are not great, and all that stuff, he still was providing a lot in terms of not only facilitating but also scoring as well. Give you 25 points if you really needed to. So you couldn't make the argument that Suggs should make this role player all-star game based on my personal criteria, what I said earlier in the video. But I don't know, it just felt wrong not to have him on the list. So, and it's my all-star team, so Jalen Suggs makes it for me. Going to the forwards, my first forward coming off the bench for the Eastern Conference role players is going to be Guerschon Yabusele of the Philadelphia 76ers. He's the only one on this list that's team is not in the playoff or even the play-in, with the Sixers being the 11th seed and having all the injury problems, all that stuff like that. But I made an exception and put Guerschon in the game because he has been phenomenal. I mean, the Sixers recently have been winning some games. The last 2 games have been really tight in ESPN against Denver. Last night's game against Boston was really tough. Had a 26-point lead and ended up blowing it at the end. And they've been better. But Guerschon Yabusele, we're just watch him on the court. Again, like I said earlier, also a lot of this role player all-star game is eye test. Role players, if you just look at the numbers for role players, they don't get the amount of love as they should if you only box score watch role players. You have to really see what they're doing on the court and make an impact to be like, oh, shoot, this guy really good. And that's what I see from Guerschon Yabusele. He has solid stats, 11 points, 5.5 rebounds, 2 assists, shooting 51% from the field, 40% from 3, 71% from the free throw line. Like he has decent numbers, but watching him on the court, you're like, dang. Like, I honestly believe he's the second best player in the Sixers right now. With Joel and Paul George obviously injured, he's been next to Tyrese Maxey. After Tyrese Maxey, it's been him as the best player and the most important player for the Sixers. I mean, he's playing both power forward and center positions. He had to start at center the last couple games, even though he is undersized, being only like 6'8". He rebounds well. He's a smart basketball player, makes some great plays. Scores inside, with the athleticism. 3-point. Now he's a good 3-point shooter. Where coming in the league, you would let him shoot. Now he's a 40% 3-point shooter, and he's shooting it super efficiently and taking big ones, making big ones, just making big impactful plays on both ends for Philadelphia. And he has just been great, especially being on I think a minimum type contract. Like, he's definitely Sixers fans. Don't get too comfortable because I guarantee you he will not be a Sixer next year. Because some team, seeing what he's doing right now, some team is going to give him some decent money that the Sixers can't match, and he's going to go somewhere else because that's the type of seasons he's having. He's been phenomenal. My next forward coming off the bench in the Eastern Conference is going to be Miles Turner of the Indiana Pacers. Turner gives you 15 points, almost 7 rebounds and assists, and almost 2 blocks, shooting 48% from the field, 40% from 3, 75% from the free throw line. We know what Miles Turner's kind of game is, and he's one of the centers that any team in the league, the idea of him at least, any team in the league would want. A guy that can shoot the 3 ball at a great clip. I mean, he's shooting 40% from 3 on 5 attempts. That's a big man. Both career highs. That's phenomenal. And also defend the way, like, be a brim protecting center, and get a lot of blocks and do stuff like that. And the Indiana Pacers have really turned their season around from being 5 games under 500 to now they're number 4 in the Eastern Conference in about a 2-month span. And Miles Turner's been a big part of that. He's had some big games, games where he's hit 4, 5, 6 3-pointers. He's been defending them really well, and it's just been a great spark plug kind of for the Indiana Pacers. So that's why he makes this list for me. He has decent numbers. He also has just been great for the Indiana Pacers in helping turn this season around. My last forward coming off the bench in the Eastern Conference is going to be Dean Wade of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, this is one of those where I said, you gotta, really watch to know. Because Dean Wade probably has the worst statistics, not even on the East, in the entire All-Star game. His entire role players, East West, he has the worst stats. I mean, he averages 6 points, 5 rebounds, and assists. He shoots 35% from three. The numbers look like just whatever numbers. Look like it doesn't look like anything. But Dean Wade, when he starts, the Cavaliers are 21-5. When he plays, the Cavs are 26-5 when Dean Wade plays. And he actually is a valuable, like, as a Cavs fan myself also as well, watching him on the court, I want him to be our starting guy for the rest of the season when he's healthy. He's injured right now, and he just made the cutoff as well. But he's really, like, he's a really valuable, serviceable wing player. Like, he guards other team's best player. You wouldn't think it, but he actually is a good defender. Like, you wouldn't think while I'm on the court, he's a good defender, but he is a good defender. He kind of stays out of the way, knows his place, next to all these guys. Also put him on because the Cavaliers, I think, deserve two, with them being the top team in the NBA. They deserve a couple role player all-stars. And I put Dean Wade, even though you could argue Ty Jerome. Ty Jerome was a finalist, for making the game. But I put Dean Wade because I really do feel like he's a valuable player. Look at analytic advanced numbers and plus minuses and all that stuff. He's really, really good on the court. And you wouldn't think it. And maybe he looked out of place in this role player roster game. From my personal list, when I watch Dean Wade, he's a valuable player to the Cleveland Cavaliers. He should be the starter for the rest of the season for Cleveland when he is healthy. And so he personally makes my role player all-star team. Down to the final two spots, the two wildcard spots. First one in the Eastern Conference is going to Dyson Daniels of the Atlanta Hawks. He had to make the list. Maybe people got worried because he wasn't a starter, or was he even one of the first two guards off the bench for the East Reserves, but we had to put him on the list because Dyson Daniels, he's been so good. In the conversation for MIP, give you 13, 5, and 3, leading the league with 3 steals per game, shooting 46% of the field, 32% from 3, 61% from the free throw line. He's become one of the pillars of the Atlanta Hawks for the future. We know what he does defensively. Probably going to make an all-defensive team, leading the league in deflections and steals. He's just one of the best perimeter defensive guards in the league. And then he's showing some stuff on the offensive end. Averaging career highs literally all across the board. Averaging career highs everywhere except for free throw percentage. Really, that's it. Everywhere else, he's a career year. He's had games where he's had 23, 22 points. Games with 5, 6 assists, with good rebounding as well for a guard. He just is turning into a really good, complete player. The only thing he doesn't really have is a consistent jump shot yet, which has been a lot better than in recent years. But if he can get that, he's going to be a premier player. Role player at least, and he's still only 21 years old. So Dyson has been so good, could not leave him off this role player all-star team. And the final spot for the Eastern Conference role player all-stars is going to Bobby Portis of the Milwaukee Bucks. Bobby averaging 13, 8, and 2, shooting 46, 36, 81 shooting. Kind of definitely more of a, if this is the real all-star game, kind of more like a popularity pick, maybe. Kind of like how Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, they make it every year. That's similar to Bobby Portis for the role player all-stars. I feel like no matter what, Bobby Portis is one of those guys that's just going to make it. He's on a good team in Milwaukee. Milwaukee being a top 5 seed in the East, I feel like, I wanted to give him one. And Bobby Portis has still been solid, even though he hasn't been as important or as, maybe as amazing as it has been the last 3 or 4 years in Milwaukee. He's still doing solid. He still has games where he's going to give you 15, 16, 20 points off the bench. Sometimes he has to start, and when he starts, he does really good. He's a really good rebounder as well, going to shoot the ball solid, efficiently, and just is, again, one of the heart and souls of the Milwaukee Bucks. So obviously he's going to get a lot of love. And yeah, I just decided, I think a role player all-star team wouldn't be complete without having Bobby on there. Now we're going to the Western Conference, the role player all-star team, starting with the guards. The first guard starting in the Western Conference is going to be Russell Westbrook of the Denver Nuggets. Once a time, probably the only time ever, since I'm ever going to do this list, that we might have an MVP winner be on the role, or a guy that has won MVP in his career be on the role player all-star team. But that's what Russell Westbrook has been this year. He has been absolutely phenomenal for the Denver Nuggets. I've done everything they've asked for him and more. He's starter now. He is a full-time starter now for the Nuggets because he's so impactful. Give you 13, 5, and 6, 1.5 steals, 47% from the field, 33% from 3, 64% from the free throw line. A couple triple-doubles this year. Has had some really important, impactful minutes and moments for the Denver Nuggets. And again, has become a full-time starter. He took Aaron Gordon's spot at one point, you know, because he was just having that good of a season. And it's just crazy to think that Westbrook at 36 still, especially after the last couple of years when he was at the Lakers and the Clippers, like he still has this type of impact. Like literally the Nuggets need him to do the things he do, and the Nuggets just let Westbrook kind of do his thing. They let Westbrook kind of just say, "All right, go ahead, go," and he does it, and that's what the Nuggets really need. He's honestly probably been the second most consistent player on the Denver Nuggets this season. He's been so good. He deserves his flowers, and I love that he's starting in the Role Player All Star game. Next guard starting for the Western Conference is going to be Jalen Wells of the Memphis Grizzlies, the one and only rookie making the Role Player All Star team. Jalen Wells has been great this year, give you 11, 3, almost 2 assists, shooting 44% from the field, 38% from 3, 84% from the free throw line. He's also played in every game for the Grizzlies this year. He started in every game except for 5 of them early in the year. But yeah, Jalen Wells has become the starter on this team. He is the starting two guard for the Memphis Grizzlies. Despite, he was the 39th overall pick out of Washington State. No one really knew who he was. And he's come out and has maybe been the most consistent rookie this year. Like, definitely going to be in the rookie of the year conversation. Right now, he might be my winner if I was picking, because he's been so consistent, so good, just does everything the Grizzlies ask for him to do. Like, he comes in, space the floor, which he's done that, shooting 30% from 3 on 5 attempts. Defend, and he does that, sometimes guarding the other team's best player when he needs to. It just really fits in this Grizzlies team. Like, knows his place, knows what he needs to do to get minutes, knows what his role is on a team with Jaren, Bane, Ja, all of them. He does his job, and does the job very, very well, especially for a 21-year-old rookie. So Jalen Wells, put him at start. He also has been so impactful for a team that is one of the top teams in the Western Conference. So Jalen Wells gets the nod as a starter for me in the Role Player All-Star game. Now going to the forwards, my first starting forward in the West for the Role Player All-Stars is going to be Amen Thompson of the Houston Rockets. Has to be. Maybe one of the best and most exciting, maybe the most exciting role player in the NBA right now. And probably maybe the only guy on this list that will eventually be an All-Star and be in the actual All-Star game at one point in their careers. But Amen Thompson having such a good year, give you 13, 8, and 3, a steal and a block, shooting 54% from the field. The last about a week and a half, 2 weeks, has been absolutely phenomenal. He's really built up not only like his stock, but his popularity in the NBA world. Like being so good. You know what he does defensively, as already being an all defensive type player, and then offensively just being able to play so many different roles, being the leading point guard if you need him to, playmaking, being able to be in the dunker spot down low, being able to attack the rim, all the crazy athletic things he does that no one else can do in the NBA. Just so good. I mean, he's already so impactful at just turned 22 years old. So impactful for a Houston Rockets team that is way, way, way better than they should be right now. And man is so good. Again, probably the only guy on this list that will eventually be in the actual All-Star game at some point, because if he continue to grow like this, I mean, what's stopping him from being a future star, an All-Star, and all that stuff? So, man, he might be the captain. Might be the captain of this Western Conference Role Player All-Star team. My next forward starting in the Western Conference is going to be Ivica Zubac of the LA Clippers. Zubac is having an amazing season for a Clipper team that also has been really exceeding expectations. Zubac has been one of the big reasons why. I mean, he's having a career year, averaging career highs dang near all across the board, averaging 15 points, 12 rebounds, 2.5 assists, and a block, shooting 61% from the field. That's career high in points, rebounds, and assists. He's been doing great things offensively, having big 18, 20-something point games, having big rebounding nights again. Over 12.5 rebounds per game, averaging almost 4 offensive rebounds per game. Is crazy. Doing that. And defensively, he's really taking a big step. I mean, Zubac has never really been a crazy defensive type of center, but this year he's taking it to a whole nother level for a Clippers team that is one of the best defenses in the NBA. So Zubac has checked every box and has been having such an incredible season for the Clippers, even though they have James Harden making an All-Star team, Norman Powell's in the MIP conversation. Like, Zubac has been very impactful to that winning as well. So Zubac starts for the Western Conference in the Role Player All-Star game. My final starter in the Western Conference for the role players is going to be Lu Dort from the OKC Thunder. Lu Dort still doing his thing, as one of the best perimeter defenders in the game. Does so many things that don't show up in the box score, even though he's not having the same year statistically as the past couple years. I mean, averaging a little bit less than 10 points, 4 rebounds, and assist and a steal. He is shooting career high 41% from 3. over 5.5 attempts, but not having the crazy, same numbers as the last couple years, but still having the same impact on an OKC team that is standing head and shoulders above everyone else in the Western Conference. We know what he does defensively. Again, one of the best perimeter defenders in the league, one of the toughest players to score against and go against in the league. Shooting the ball, 40+% 3-point shooter on the offensive end as well. And he just provides so much in terms of the hustle game. He averages over 1.5 offensive rebounds per game. He's going to do the extra things that don't show up in the box score, and just is another one of those kind of heart and soul guys in OKC. Now we're going to the bench. My first guard coming off the bench in the Western Conference is going to be Christian Braun of the Denver Nuggets. Braun this year having a career year. He's been thrust in as the full-time, maybe not full-time now, because the last couple games they started Westbrook and Aaron Gordon together, so now it looks like he might be coming off the bench as the sixth man. But Christian Braun has been super impactful. He might not have the same game as KCP and might not be doing the same things that KCP did, but he's still making an impact. Give you 14.5 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal, while shooting 57% from the field, 39% from 3, 83% from the free throw line. Literally the career highs all across the board. He's really taking this role well in terms of being kind of an energy guy on the defensive end and taking those assignments, getting a lot of extra plays, averaging over 1 offensive rebound per game. And he also, offensively, he's been solid. He takes the shots that he's supposed to take. He's shooting a pretty solid percentage from 3, even though he doesn't take too many threes, which maybe sometimes feel like he should take a little bit more. But he's doing a solid percentage and also getting the shots that he knows he's going to get. He gets he's a great cutter, especially off of Jokic and Westbrook, feeds. He is an amazing cutter, gets a lot of buckets like that. A lot around the rim, definitely plays a little bit to the dunker spot with Westbrook and Jokic as well. And just, he's still making an impact. Even though, again, it's not the same as KCP and doesn't do the same exact things as KCP, he's still giving you production and still, I feel like, making a big impact for the Denver Nuggets. My next guard coming off the bench for the Western Conference is going to be Aaron Wiggins of the OKC Thunder. Wiggins having another phenomenal year. The last couple years, I feel like he has been a really, really good role player, just hasn't really gotten as much love and doesn't really play as much as he should have. But this year, he's becoming the real guy. He just came off, he dropped 41 and 14 the other night, so that's, that's crazy. But over on the year, give you 10 points, 3 rebounds, and assists, shooting 48% from the field, 36% from 3, making a really big impact, starts sometimes when he needs to start, and just a really good basketball player. Cutter, amazing cutter, I feel like. He's become a really reliable 3-point shooter. Shooting 36% on almost 4 attempts. Defensively, he's reliable as well, and just knows how to play the game. He knows what his role is on this team, and he plays at absolute perfection. I feel like one of the more underrated role players in the NBA, the man who saved basketball as well. And yeah, just a really good and really, really good style player. Every time I watch him on the court, I'm like, dang, this dude knows how to ball. So Aaron Wiggins gets a spot on the role player all-star team. Going to the forwards, my first forward coming off the bench in the Western Conference is going to be Deni Avdija of the Portland Trail Blazers. Deni, if you watched the channel, last year, I loved Deni last year in Washington. Still confused how the Wizards just traded him for nothing, basically. Traded him to Portland. And he got off to a little bit of a rocky start in Portland, but recently he's been putting some really good games together. Give you 14, 6, and 3 with a steal on 46, 34, 77 shooting splits. Basically kind of having a similar season last year. Some of the numbers are down, some of the shooting is down. Still making a big impact. He's still a guy that the Blazers have been very good recently, and that Deni has been a big reason why he's become a full-time starter for this team. Defensively, he's an amazing defender, can guard one of your better players, really good perimeter defender. Then offensively, has a really solid game as well. He's a guy that you can put the ball in his hands, he can make plays as a 6'9" forward that also can sometimes play guard if you need him to. He can handle the ball, really good at driving and attacking the basket. Really decent 3-point shooter, not an amazing elite 3-point shooter that's going to have 7 or 8 threes in a game, but reliable, can give you 2 or 3 in a game that you really need it. And yeah, just does so many different things, and he's still only 24 years old. He's still so young too, which kind of blows my mind because he's been in the league for 5 years. And he's still only 24. So yeah, he's just a really impactful player, definition of really good role player. And I would love to see him on an actually really good team. Portland's been really good recently, but we know Portland's not going to make the playoffs or anything. But I would love to see him on an actual playoff type of team because I feel like he can really complement anybody, with the way he plays. My next forward coming off the bench in the Western Conference is going to be Naz Reid of the Minnesota Timberwolves, the reigning 6th Man of the Year winner, still playing really, really well, giving you 13.5 points, 5 rebounds, almost 2 assists, shooting 48% from the field, 41% from 3, 78% from the free throw line. still doing his thing. You know, especially recently, the last couple weeks, he's had some really big games. But yeah, Nas, just that Nas does Nas things. You know, he just brings so much energy and life to Minnesota, especially with Julius Randle not having the greatest fit. Nas Reed has become even more, better looking, and better on the court. I mean, a big man that has the skill that he has, like can shoot the three ball like he has, and that can put the ball on the floor and go get buckets like he does, and impact the game like he does. So valuable to have, man. So Nas absolutely makes his team. Next guy coming off the bench forward for the Western Conference, going to be Dylan Brooks of the Houston Rockets. Dylan Brooks still doing his thing. They give you 13, 3, and 1.5 assists, shooting 42% from the field, 38% from three, career high from three, 38% on 6 attempts, 84% from the free throw line. He's been on a burner recently. He had a 10 3-pointer game against Boston. The last couple games, he's been shooting the lights out. But Dylan Brooks just still adds so much for a Houston Rockets team that's really good, which when you're really good, you get multiple All-Stars, and that's what the Rockets get, 2 All-Stars on the Role Player All-Star team. He's been very, very big for the Houston Rockets in terms of being a three-point shooter, lights out three-point shooter, having a career year from shooting. And then defensively, you know what he does, you know what he brings in the locker room. Just a big help, really, for the Houston Rockets team. And he has been very, very good, especially recently, but very good this season for Houston. So for me, personally, he makes the Role Player All-Star game. Now going to the 2 wildcard spots. My first wildcard spot for the role players in the West is going to be Santi Aldama of the Memphis Grizzlies. Santi has been having a great season for the Grizzlies. Grizzlies obviously have been very, very good, and they have a lot of depth, and Santi is one of the better players in terms of depth. I think he has been kind of their 6th man, this season. But yeah, give you career year, 13, 6, and 2, shooting 49% of the field, 36% from 3, 71% from the free throw line. Career highs all across the board, except for free throw percentage, I guess. But everywhere else, career highs. Just a really, underrated guy in terms of being a 6'11" forward that can do a lot of different things. Catch a shoot, he could do that. Definitely can get hot and hit a couple threes in a game. Also a guy that kind of doesn't really mind shooting that ball. He gets it. He kind of had a thing here as a lights out. I'm going for it. Shooting the ball there. Attack the rim as well. Really solid ball handler for being that big. Rebounds pretty well. Defensively can hold his own. And really solid player. Really solid. I feel like very underrated. No one really talks about him, but very, very good. And if he does move on to another team after this year, because he has come contract, could be up, and some team could offer him some nice money, I would like to see that. I want to see him stay in Memphis, but I would like to see what his contract looks like and what teams offer him and what the NBA thinks of him, because I really do believe Santi Aldama is a very good player, maybe even a starter in this league. And my final wildcard spot for the Role Player All-Star team in the Western Conference is going to Julian Champagnie of the San Antonio Spurs, of the San Antonio Spurs. But the Spurs have been fun this year, and I'm really impressed with Julian Champagnie this year. He started the year as a starter, the starting forward. Slowly had to come, now he's back to the bench unit, but he still provides the same amount of things. Give you 10 points, 4 rebounds, and assists, shooting 42% from the field, 36% from 3, 90% from the free throw line. Just a lights out shooter. Just has the mentality of, I'm here to shoot, so I'm going to shoot it. And he's had some big games there, really solid defensively too. And has just been one of the more impactful players on the San Antonio Spurs this year. I really love when he's out there playing for the Spurs, and has finally kind of found a role for himself in the NBA, which I really like to see. But yeah, Julian Champagnie, he's been one of the better players on the Spurs. I love watching him play. I feel like he just has been so impactful. He's had so many big shots, great moments for San Antonio this year. So he gets my final spot in the Role Player All-Star game. And yeah, those are the 2 teams. There's a tough to pick from. There's a lot of other players. I had a big pool of players I picked. And so, yeah, if there's guys that are not on the list that you feel like actually deserve to make this list, they either average too many points per game and didn't meet the point requirement, or also didn't meet the game's play requirement. Because I made that a requirement because to be a good role player, you also have to be available as well. So Isaiah Hartenstein doesn't make the list because he did not play enough games. That's the only reason why. If he played enough games, he would have been a starter on this team for sure. Guys like DeAndre Hunter, Michael Porter Jr., those are guys that average too many points. Andrew Wiggins, those guys average too many points on their teams to be named to the Role Player All-Star team as well. All right, so if you have guys that you feel like should have been locks on this team that didn't make locks, they either scored too many points or didn't play enough games or simply didn't have them on. Maybe I simply didn't have them on. Who knows? But yeah, it's going to be it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Once again, if you enjoyed the content around here, consider subscribing, liking, turn notifications to all stuff like that. I'd really appreciate it. Really upset a lot. Look at my Twitter and all that stuff down in the description below, like always. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow.